Well, it's now my pleasure to introduce our run speaker, who is Derlene Hirtz. And Derlene is a passionate business growth coach and neurolinguistic programming trainer with a deep commitment to helping others achieve their goals. She guides entrepreneurs and professionals toward building more productive, purposeful, and profitable businesses. As an NLP trainer, Derlene focuses on shifting mindset, the science of success, and becoming the best version of self. Derlene empowers clients to take responsibility for their success, overcome obstacles, and develop actionable strategies for growth. Her ultimate goal is to empower clients to create lasting change, build thriving businesses, and live lives of purpose, fulfillment, and abundance. Derlene, take it away.
Thank you. And there you go. Thank you. Speaking of science, I took a class at Wharton Business School last year called Neuroscience in Business. And this is one little bitty component that I learned that I really wanted to share today because I believe that it's going to really help you how you deal with your customers. And Corey, I was thinking about this whenever you were talking about connecting. Had I realized we were going to be on Zoom, I wrote this for all the in-person. There's a whole nother section that we did about online communication. So Corey, let's have a one-to-one and I'll share that with you. If you're doing a lot of that, I would love to share that with you. So neuroscience is talked about in personal development, it's talked about in diagnoses, and sports talks a lot about the neuroscience. We don't really talk a lot about the neuroscience in business. So today we are in terms, and I'm going to share with you what the social brain network is. So now am I in charge of moving okay, thank you. I'll just say next, who's ever doing that. So the miracle on ice, you might remember the miracle on ice. It was 1980, the 1980 Olympics, and we were the underdogs with the Soviet Union, massive underdogs. And we were a put together team. The Soviet Union played full time. This was still supposed to be considered kind of the amateurs coming together. And Coach Herb Brooks was very much aware of this. He knew what he was walking into, and he knew the secret sauce. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So let's go to the next slide, please. The social brain network. So in 2017, an organization called, let me think what it was. It was the Carrier Builders recognized that 50%, they did some kind of massive poll, and 50% of the employees did not like their job. They said that there was no loyalty from their bosses, and they really knew that within 6 months they were going to quit their job, and that the workplace was toxic, and their job was just a bad fit. Now it costs $30,000 to onboard somebody on average. So to lose that employee is really a big thing. In conjunction, the Oxygen Project did a survey too, where they asked what makes a good manager. And over and above all, they talked about emotional intelligence and a good communicator, trustworthy, be ethical, somebody that had their back. And many of them felt like that was not the case. And so it didn't make sense that you'd go and fire all the managers that were not emotionally intelligent, right? What did make sense was to develop programs that taught emotional intelligence, which is when I'm a former teacher. And that's one of the things that, like, pet peeve, right? Is that we do not have emotional intelligence in school. It's one of those missteps, I believe. And so people are becoming managers with no background on emotional intelligence. And it's showing up in the workforce, people quitting their jobs. So just a reminder that this today is talking about in person, not virtual. So we all have these set of brain networks that manage our connections to other people. And that's called our social brain network. Next one, please. So the social brain network, so it starts at the back and it comes towards the front, and it begins moving forward to where, like, what happens is immediately you look at the person in front of you. And of course, this is all unconscious, right? We look at the person in front of you and we think, have I previously interacted with them? Or do I have an emotional attachment to them? What's their mental state? What does their facial expressions look like? What is their posture doing? What is their tone? What does that mean to me? What are they feeling? All of this is going on in our head, right? And as we think about that, next, please. As we think about, next slide, please. As we think about that, we're looking at this emotional resonance or empathy and the cognitive pathway. So this is our left brain, right brain working together. And together they're going to come down and we're going to make decisions on that. What is our social brain paying attention to? We're thinking, what is important to know about this person? What's their emotional state? Because see, what happens is when we show empathy, they're more likely to want to work with us. And on our mental side, when we're paying attention, we're like, what are they paying attention to? What's important to them? And when those come together, that's where the decisions are made. What do they want? What are they thinking? Do they think I'm going to cheat them? Are they cooperative? Do they think I'm going to cooperate with them? All of those things are happening in these split microseconds, right? And then the really important thing to recognize is our brain is going through that, and so is your clients, so is your customers. This whole thing is working. And what happens is when you get on the same page, your brain waves synchronize. We're going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, but they synchronize. And so next, please. Thank you. And so what's important to know is that, Kara, don't kick me. Your success is not found in the marketing, in the social media, all of those. Your success begins in the relationship that you build. And you can build a relationship in person. You can build a relationship online. It's where your work needs to happen, is focusing on that relationship. What happens is many entrepreneurs count on their social media or their website. They enter what we call the Witness Protection Program, the Entrepreneurial Witness Protection Program. Oh, I'm going to let all that do the work for me, and I'm going to stay home and I'm going to, I don't know, eat bonbons. I don't know what that's like. So I could only imagine. So what's really important to know is that 50% of our social brain network is actually inherited. It's genetic. It comes from our parents, which means we are responsible for the other 50%. So we are responsible for getting out of that entrepreneurial witness protection program. That responsibility is on us. And one of the first ways that we do that is to make positive eye contact. And that's kind of hard on Zooms, quote unquote, because like right now I'm going to look down. I see Nadine's picture. So I'm looking down at Nadine. So I'm not looking. It doesn't look like I'm looking at you guys in the eyes. Even though it's blurry, it's important that I stay focused on where my little camera is, right? That makes more of a eye-to-eye contact. And what's really important about that is that your brain releases oxytocin. And when my brain releases oxytocin and your brain releases oxytocin, they go, oh, we have a mutual relationship together. We can grow this relationship. It allows us to pay closer attention. See, oxytocin is an ancient chemical, and when released, our social attention, we're able to recognize emotions and cooperation and all the things. And then, not only that, when we truly pay attention to what's being said and what we're really hearing, there's a much more positive social outcome, which means better business, better closing rates, higher sales. And one of the biggest things that happens is this thing right here, our phone. We keep our phone close by because we can't miss that text. We can't miss that possible phone call in that 45-minute interaction, 30-minute interaction, whatever it is. Well, what happens is your unconscious mind creates a complete disconnect. whenever that happens. And so when we are, even if we, like I have times, guilty as charged, said, I'm really expecting an important phone call. Many times I go into meetings that say, hey, my kids are at home. I got to keep my phone on. Well, here's the thing. In that meeting time, our minds can't help it. There is a disconnect. That oxytocin does not happen when we have our phone sitting there. So the best thing that you can do is have a plan B. Hey, to your caretaker or whoever, I'm going to be in a meeting from 10 to 10:30. You have to take the phone calls. I cannot do that. That's super important. I've started putting my phone away at all meetings. I do not today because we were having our little Karen issue. So when we look away at our phone, we miss those subtle cues that can tell us what is going on, that can add value to our conversation. Because after all, communication is only 7% verbal. 93% of our communication is our physiology and our tonality. And when we lose our attention, we absolutely lose that 93% of possible communication. And here's what's really cool about what the science tells us. Next, please. If you work at home, even your dog releases oxytocin. When you look at your dog and you have eye-to-eye contact, your dog is building that relationship with you. You're releasing oxytocin together. So everybody go out and buy a dog. Just kidding. I don't have one right now. And so that's like great information to have, right? That's the importance of oxytocin. Next, please. So what happens, sports teams know, this is what sports teams know, is that when you high five, when you huddle, when you give a attaboy or attagirl on the back of the shoulder, all of that, you win more games and it increases the social brain network. And so that's what Herb Brooks knew. That was his secret sauce, because he knew that this was a team that he was going to put together to play a team that plays together 24/7. And so he didn't have the best players, so he had to create the smartest players, if that's fair. So his talent was not like what it was at the Soviet Union. So he selected his players based not on talent alone. He based them on their ability, excuse me, his ability for them to play together. He even found some players that had played together previously in college or on other teams or whatever. He also wasn't looking for that one hero. What he focused on was creating conditions for every single person on that team to reach their full potential together. And that was his secret sauce. And that's what we get to learn from that Miracle on Ice. Underdogs came from behind. I mean, the story could go on, right? And so as we look at what we're doing in our business, building the relationships is the most important thing. And one other thing that I really learned about the social brain network is the food we eat. And I'm not going to dive into nutrition, Dr. Dan. That's your thing. I just want to tell you what Wharton Business School in their neuroscience research shares, that how we show up, making a decision, being motivated, all depends on what we eat for breakfast. When we sleep at night, our body uses all those daily nutrients to continue to work for us while we're sleeping. And so what happens is a lot of times when we get up, our dopamine and our serotonin are decreased. So we need, and when we have a decreased dopamine, we take more risks. And when we have more adequate dopamine, we are very conscientious, we are motivated, we're better learners, we're better decision makers. And serotonin reduces our mood. So when those are depleted, we get that back by eating protein breakfast, eggs, bacon. When we do that, this research shows that we make good social decisions. Research also shows when we eat like bagels or muffins or something like that, we have impaired decision making. And like that was like the aha for me when I learned that. I was like, oh, whenever I can put something in my brain, that's like forward hope for me. Next picture, please. And can we go to the next picture? And then we're going to come back to this one. I changed those slides. So we all know that mirroring is a way to build a relationship. You know, when they move, we move, all unconsciously. You know, if you did it at the same time I did and it was very obvious, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? You're weird. But postures, behaviors, when we mirror those build relationship, that builds trust, that builds that like. We're more likely to get the job, get the contract, higher salary, all the things. And the social business and the social brain network, it looks to synchronize all of that. So that's what's really important about it. It automatically, when we meet people, our brain is already looking to create similar patterns. What's the same about us? Where's our likeness? Can I trust you based on our likeness? And all of that equals better results, better performance in school, in sports, that kind of thing. Better results all the way around when two people's brains are linked together. There's a psychology synchronicity that allows us to trust. There's a closeness, a cooperation that happens. And the other thing is genuine smiling. You know, I used to think that like way back in the day, my dad, you know, told my sister how smart she was, told my brother how smart he was. And he told me that I had a beautiful smile, which was devastating to me. I wanted to hear how smart I was. But let me tell you what the science says. With the genuine smile, that taps into the emotional part of people's brains. And that is what has allowed me to understand that I build great relationships because I do have that genuine smile. I am truly interested in people, in their success and their behavior. And so thank you, Dad. That actually was a growth for me because it was something that held me back for a long time. My dad didn't think I was smart, so I had to do some internal work on that. Now, can we go back to the fire walker, please? So this is what's really cool. A man was walking on hot coals, and there was an audience that included his family, his relatives, and strangers. And they had them all hooked up on whatever it is that they hooked them up to. And his social brain network was in sync with his relatives and his close family that was in the audience and not the strangers. That is the power of relationship. That is the power of a strong brain network. Isn't that so cool? I just thought that was so cool. Okay, if we can go to the very last. So just to recap, we're responsible for taking 50% of our success. If you want to get down to, you know, blame your parents for 50%, put down your phone, make eye contact, and understand that the chemistry you are creating or not creating is on you. Eat right and understand that success is about relationships. Thank you for that, Mark, or whoever told me that. Questions?
Derlene, I just want to say absolutely outstanding, from your discussion of the neuroscience to your very correct information regarding nutrition and the importance of protein, the amino acids we get from them, and those being the building blocks for your neurotransmitters. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, and Darlene, you know, I'm thinking about your first presentation and this one, and you know, what came to mind is the relationships with others depend heavily upon the relationship we have with ourselves. And so when we develop a good relationship with ourselves using those 10 tips that you gave us, then it's much easier for us to develop relationships with others.
Yeah. Thank you, Del.
Can you send those 10 tips to us?
Yeah, I will, for sure. Anybody else?
I think the words are so important. Words you speak to yourself. So that one of the strategies I found very helpful is to literally and in your earlier among the 10 tips you talked about one that I wrote down here is positive phrasing. I think it was the second or third one. One was practicing gratitude, and then the second or third one about speaking positively in terms of what one wants or doesn't want. So one strategy I found that's helpful for me, just for me, is to take phrases or statements about desires to say, I don't want this, or I don't want this, or I want to avoid this, or I want to do, take those and literally rewrite them in positive terms, especially when I'm referring to myself, that I am, that I refer it in positive terms, and then give myself 30 days to do those, to say everything positively. So to develop the habit of speaking positively to myself and positively about what I want. And it works. It's developing a different frame of mind, a different habit of mind.
I love it. Yep. Yeah, I think the easy question to that when I say I can't is, what if I could?
Right.
What if I
Right.
could?
Wouldn't it be cool if I could?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if this happened?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of I want this, I hope this. You know, wouldn't it be cool if?
Yeah.
Or would it be cool if?
Yeah. Thank you, Bill.
It's the old cliche, whatever you tell yourself, you're right, right? If you tell yourself
Yeah,
you can't do it,
exactly.
you're right. If you tell yourself you can do it, if you have your I can, you're also right.
Correct. Yep. It's awesome. Thank you.